What's up, guys, and welcome to the FPL WildCats Live. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see there's about 20 of you in the chat already, so start putting those questions in the chat. Also, if you do want to support the channel at all, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because we will be providing content during pre-season and throughout the rest of the season. And apologies if anything seems a little different, but I had to work some tech magic and do things a little differently today to make sure we go live. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works. And I'll pass over to Nim to carry on with the festivities.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, and welcome everyone to the stream. The fixtures are in, and we can now start to draft with blank game week 1 in mind. So please do get your questions in the chat. As Jay said, we'll be doing our best to give you our views and opinions on those. And also, I'm sure we'll be doing a quick fire round, because that went down quite well last week. Yeah, it's kind of our thing now. Yeah, it's our thing. It's our thing. Yeah. Everybody's here tonight. We've got Brett, FPL TV, J&O from FPL Today, and Kurt, who hasn't been sacked this week after his antics last week. I mean, we couldn't, he's Kurt.
I did, however, receive my 37th written warning, so that must be the last one now. But
getting very close.
After my 38th, I'm sure we'll find out it's not.
But he's Curtioy, and you can check him out on Twitch and on YouTube. So let's get started by doing the rounds.
I've got a question.
Oh, yeah.
Can I start first off? Because I've already looked at the chat, and it's going to annoy me tonight, so I'm getting one thing out of the way. Before we discuss how we are, can we just get Messi to the Premier League / Man City out of the way? So I don't want another scenario when it becomes 50% of our questions. Get it out of the way. Talk about it, and it's done, and we can focus on other things.
Anyone that comes to the stream after we answer this,
yeah, we'll still ask about it.
All right, then we'll discuss Messi at the end, right before the quickfire. So that way, people coming in, if they ask Messi, I can tell them in the chat, stop asking about Messi. That's at the end of the video. All right. Because otherwise, it's going to be half our stream.
Or we won't talk about Messi until we hit a certain amount of likes.
Oh, no.
68 likes and we'll talk about Messi. 69 likes, I'll get my shirt off again.
That's very close together.
With that balance there, yeah.
Very close together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So do I carry on with what I plan to start with? I mean,
yeah, go for it. We don't want to ruin your flow too much.
My flow. So let's get started by doing the rounds on how we're feeling about the blank game week that's been announced in game week 1. I think that's a good place to start, because obviously we weren't entirely sure that it was going to be a blank, and now it's been confirmed. So Jay, how are you feeling on the whole blank game week? Are you excited about it because it causes some chaos, or are you just like, I had my draft and this has stuffed everything up?
I always knew my draft wasn't going to stay the same way as it was anyway, so it wasn't really that big a spanner in the works for me. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm really feeling excited. I wouldn't really say I'm dreading it. It's just, this part of the season is right at the beginning. It's just something I've got to deal with. So I know that isn't exactly the most exciting answer, but I think it will help those more committed players over those that may generally just pick a side last minute or pick their side and forget about it. So I think there could be a chance that players that are committed will have a little bit of a...
It's the case that like the people that put more effort in would benefit from the preparation. But I just
it's a
know
new
for
season.
A fact that
Don't be Brett from last season. It's a new
people,
season. We've got
casuals
this.
are going to like just shrivel up on like City and United. They'll blank in game week 1 and then they'll smash game week 2 and then they'll win anyway. Yeah, it's definitely it's a spanner in the works for me because before the game was released, obviously we all had in mind like players that we were going to try and build our team around, and Fernandes, De Bruyne, Foden, these players were all like sort of featuring heavily in my sort of drafts before this blank came out, Greenwood and Martial as well. So yeah, it's definitely a headache. Some more than others, the problem with it is like, I'm with the squad that I've sort of put together at the moment, which might change. Like I can maneuver through game week 1 to game week 2, and my game week 2 team I'm happy with. But it's just that feeling of going into game week 1 with a squad that you're not happy with because you're having to prepare for game week 2. So you go forward, you look at it in game week 2, game week 3, you think, great. But then when you've got like Stevens of like Brighton at 4.5 starting in game week 1 at home to Chelsea because he's like your bench fodder that has to play.
Yeah.
Sort of like, oh, really? Am I going to start this FPL season with like Stevens at home to Chelsea for 4.5 million and that kind of thing, because obviously Charlie Taylor was in my drafts too, and he still is. So there's a lot of players blanking there that were featuring quite prominently in my thoughts. So I don't know. It's a tough one. At the moment, I've still got 2 United players in my current draft. I'm just going to bench them for game week 1, I think.
Yeah.
But like I said, then I've got a very poor sort of game week 1.
So you're trying to keep your wild card, I'm assuming. You don't want to use it.
Yeah, that's the plan, I think. I like the idea, I do like the idea of an early wild card because then you can really like benefit. You don't have to focus so much, and then you can just wild card into like a really strong team. I'm just worried that like further down the line I'll regret that if it doesn't go well. So I just think because I wild carded so early last season, it just didn't go well at all. Especially if we're going to like triple up on Liverpool and stuff anyway, if we do that in game week 1 because they're not blanking, there's less reason to wildcard then because we're probably going to wildcard into triple up on Liverpool anyway, at least I would. So yeah, the plan is to hold the wildcard and try and maneuver through this patiently. And for the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, because he's 11.5 and Aubameyang, originally Aubameyang was out of my price range. I couldn't really afford him. And then when the fixtures came out, I was like, long-term Aubameyang hasn't got great fixtures anyway, so I don't mind. But because De Bruyne blanks now, and Fernandes blanks, it's sort of like, well, Aubameyang's like the placeholder for one of them. So
it's almost perfect, isn't it, how good his first 2 fixtures are?
Yes, it is, because I don't even like City's game week 2 fixture. I think they're like away to Wolves or something anyway. Something like that. It's not the best fixture. So now, I can own Aubameyang for the first 2 weeks, and I might captain him game week 1, to be honest, against Fulham. And he's a nice placeholder then for De Bruyne or Fernandes. But it's a headache for sure because I hate my game week 1 team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you. So I had a team draft that I was fairly set on, to be honest. I was going big in midfield. I was, I was really happy with it, actually. I just made my peace with it. Sometimes you just settle into a team and you're like, okay, I'm not entirely sure here, but I feel okay with this. I feel comfortable. I know where I can go with this. I'm good with it. Let's go, champ, basically. And and then the blank game week came and I was like, oh no, because now it means I do have to change it. And I don't feel like I've done my first draft, put my first draft video out. I like it, but I'm still kind of considering my options, which I don't like because it means I haven't really settled. So it was a bit frustrating, and it also meant that I couldn't have Aguero from game week 1. So that's always a bad thing. Anyway, what about you, Kurt? What did you think of the blank game week?
It was talked about, so it doesn't come as too much of a shock.
Yeah.
I've taken. Well, I mean, it's still time. I've taken the approach at the moment just to replace the players, and end of the day, it's just one of those things. It does mean that whenever they bring that game week in, got to make sure you go heavy on them and you get them back in. I think it's just at the moment creating a team that can play and do well in game week 1 with easy ways in. So potentially not trying to use my wild card, but potentially taking a -4. So taking out potentially at the moment it's going to be like Salah and someone else, and bringing in someone from City, someone from United. But it's just about making sure you've got a way in, an easy way in, without using the wild card. Otherwise, I never like an early wild card because I always end up doing something or getting to a point in the season where I've got what seems like 3 injuries, 2 suspensions, one person's being Pep Roulette, and not playing, and then other people are just off the boil. So I always like to have it in the bag, but it's just one of those things. Got to go on with it.
Cool. Absolutely, yeah.
Just quickly, Nim, the one thing that I am struggling with, that in terms of another spanner in the works with this blank, is that I talked earlier about Aubameyang being the placeholder for De Bruyne and Fernandes, but it's surprising what that extra 0.5 million does to the rest of your team, because it's great that I have that placeholder, but then I have to change another player in my team just to have him for game week 1 and 2. If I started with, if De Bruyne wasn't blanking, that's an extra 0.5 to upgrade my goalkeeper, or a better defender. There's lots of players for that 0.5 million more that I'm just missing out on just because I need Aubameyang for the first 2 weeks. And it's sort of yes, I can afford those players then in 2 weeks' time when I drop Aubameyang down, but it's just banking more transfers in your mind. And you don't want to plan too many transfers ahead because you don't know what's going to happen. So people in the chat at the moment, Carrie is talking about Ramsdale for Sheffield United, and because he signed there, I'm really keen on Ramsdale as a goalkeeper. Set and forget, to be honest. 5 million. Because when he came in at 5, because Dean Henderson at Sheffield United went to 5.5, and now Ramsdale signed at Sheffield United, I thought they might price him at 5.5, but he's only 5 million, and it's Matt Ryan or Ramsdale, and I'm sort of I wish I could just get that extra 0.5 to go to Ramsdale,
Yeah.
But because I want this luxury of having a Aubameyang for the first 2 weeks, sort of ruling that out for me, which is a bit frustrating.
Who did play tonight in a friendly and didn't do anything, coincidentally. But yeah, it's funny how psychologically we're all have to have him in our teams.
I've thought about going without. It's just because I know I'm going to go with probably De Bruyne or Fernando. I might as well have Aubameyang for the first 2.
It's too risky not to have Aubameyang, surely, for the amount of people that are going to have him in the side. If he does do something really good, you're starting off very slowly compared to other people, if he does a madness. If he doesn't, then you've called it correctly. It's very risky early doors, though, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with Salah, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I would suggest to everyone you have to have Salah and Aubameyang, and then figure out the strategy from that point.
I'd even say you kind of have to have Werner as well at the moment, given his percentage owned. It's ridiculous.
Just in case, who knows, his debut, he might go and get a hat-trick.
Yeah.
You're then on the bandwagon before it starts. It could possibly be he just gets fluke in his first game, and then you get that bit where you have to wait and see how well he does afterwards. But
yeah, definitely. Cool. Okay then, so on to our first question. At FPL_JRF, a regular, says, "Hi Wildcats, are managers setting themselves up for disappointment ignoring Salah and Mane?" Which is basically what we just touched upon, so that's a good time to kind of discuss it. So we've just kind of said he's essential. Do we all agree with that? Kurt, do you agree that Salah or Mane are essential? I think you're still muted, buddy.
I muted myself, got to sort of payment for the ref for the game earlier. Either of them are essential for game week 1, I feel. But past that, I mean, they did well last season. Credit where it's due. They are the most expensive players for a reason. But at the same time, I don't think I can see much longer. I've got Trent in. I think he's going to be pretty much a solid player in the team. I can't see myself keeping Salah for much longer. Salah will be out the door very, very quickly to get other assets. As long as I've got coverage for Liverpool, I'm fine. But in terms of Salah, I'm not really too fussed on him. And it's no sort of boycott Salah or boycott Mane thing this season. There's nothing like that.
You sure? You sure?
I hope so. It's just more. I fancy Man United attackers. I think the way they ended last season, the way they played last season, it was great to watch. And I think they'll be rested game week 1 as well. They've got a blank. They should be extra rested. And then Man City as well. Another good team, another attacking threat. I think De Bruyne or Sterling become more essential than Salah or Mane, personally. But who knows? Everyone's essential until they start not scoring, basically. It's the same with everything. You could say, this £4.5 million defender, because he's going to be playing all season, he's essential.
Yeah.
So it's just your perception on it.
So what have we got at the moment? If we go to the transfers, and we've got Salah's 32.9% owned at the moment, and Alba is 34.7% owned.
I think that they've both gone up.
Before the blank was announced, Salah actually wasn't that high. It was like
he wasn't that highly owned.
And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Salah is not going to be as high owned as we're used to seeing.
But that's similar because of the fact that options. Yeah, and with De Bruyne, with the blank, he was 65-66%. He's now at 40%.
Yeah.
So there's there's quarter of the player base have shifted off De Bruyne and shifted off other assets. So you see Sterling go down, you'll see all the United players go down, which makes them, if anything, you could potentially look at keeping players like Salah or Aubameyang as maybe even a sort of a high price differential, because there will be people that have brought on. I know Aubameyang's gone up, Salah's gone up, Mane's gone up. There will be people that are absolutely flooding off them.
Still only 11.9%.
And even then, I just think with the blank game week 1, I think Salah in that case doesn't become essential, because playing your wild card, and let's say getting De Bruyne, getting Sterling, getting Rashford, getting Martial, Greenwood, Fernandes, whoever, you've got to be looking at the fact that there's so many people that have gone off them. Those first couple of weeks with the price rises, they're going to skyrocket. So for team value, and it towards the end of the season doesn't matter. At this point in the season, getting as many of them in as possible for the price rises, which are inevitable, because De Bruyne will go back up to that sort of 60% market eventually. You in the long run, it will help you. So I'd say Salah isn't essential. Personally.
I was going to say Salah could drop in price very quickly.
That's the other thing.
Very quickly, which again will hurt your team value. Because I think a lot of people are planning moves off of Aubameyang and Salah very quickly.
That is what worries me about Aubameyang. But then Aubameyang's going to be in my team no matter what. I'm still dead cert on Aubameyang being potentially a set and forget captain if he's fit. But there will be a massive price swing.
If he signs, which he still hasn't done yet. He's trolling us. He's trolling us on Twitter well enough about doing it. Get the thing done, man. Get it done. Hashtag announce Aubameyang. So Jay, you thinking though that they're essential, or like what are your thoughts? Because you're saying obviously that he could drop in price, so does that make you waver on whether or not they have to be in your team?
I can't see myself not starting with them. Like, I just cannot see myself not starting with them, because they both look like the best options from the very get-go for hopefully what will be a great start. But also because of the ownership, if I don't have them and they do really well, I can see myself starting in a similar position as I did last year, which ideally I want to avoid. So my plan is that I will be moving on to Man United and City options. Probably looking at the likes of Greenwood, as long as no one's brought in as potentially a bench player, which isn't ideal, of course, but someone like Greenwood I feel like I could bench for one game week, whereas, say, benching a Bruno Fernandes will feel a lot more difficult. And whilst I still think Bruno Fernandes is the most important player in that side, potentially points-wise, as Greenwood's a midfielder, if he's the benefit of playing with Bruno Fernandes and scoring goals, and he seems like a very good finisher, his points could still be considerable enough. And at 7 million, that's like 3.5 million cheaper than Bruno Fernandes.
7.5, he's 3 million.
7.5, so 3 million less.
It could give you that kind of leeway you need until you get to your first wild card, basically, couldn't it? Before you get Bruno in, and then you can decide.
I'm potentially going no Bruno this year.
Wow.
We'll see.
That's
Just I
actually
feel
where
like
I'm at the moment.
I feel like the other
Wow.
United options could cover
Gosh.
at a cheaper
wow.
price, and they don't even have to cover exactly. They just have to be close enough points wise that I can get more points with a different position than I maybe be restricted to if I had Bruno. Because I did try build a side with 3 midfielders that were 10.5 up, and I just hated the look of the rest of the side. And I was looking at thinking, I'm relying on 3 players here, and if they don't do well, then I'm going to have a bad game week.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that's almost the same as me, because at the start of the season, I was like, okay, I'll build my team around 4 players: Trent, Bruno, Salah, De Bruyne, no brainers. But I tried to put a team together with those 3 big hitters, and I was like, I'm not really liking sort of the balance of the team. And then out of the 3, I was like, well, who can I go without? And I looked at the stats as well. And I mean, look, Fernandes was unreal last season, and I still love him as an option on penalties, pivotal how they play. But like his big chance creation compared to De Bruyne, like De Bruyne is just off the scale, like the amount of chances he makes. And I kind of think if there's one player that can't sustain that form, it's Fernandes. I'm not saying he's not going to sustain his form on the pitch, but in terms of FPL returns, and unlike De Bruyne, where all the other City options are a bit of a minefield and a bit inconsistent or rotation worries, in United, it's Martial, Rashford, Greenwood. They're all great options, I think.
Yeah.
So I've dropped Bruno at the moment down to Greenwood for 3 million saving. And as things stand, I've just, like, at the start of last season, I talked myself into Jamie Vardy. At the start of the season, I have to have Jamie Vardy. And this season, it's Martial. I've just convinced myself that I have to start the season with Martial, because I think back to the end of last season, he was just a demon. Like, I was so impressed with Martial. So rather than going Fernandes, I think I'm going to go Greenwood, Martial, as I can make the sort of the compromise to be without Fernandes.
Yeah, I quite like a double up, to be honest, to cover it.
I like
mean,
their fixtures long term as well.
But just on their own, it is tough to kind of imagine not having him in your team, just because of how, like, I don't know, he just always, to me, is the one driving the play, you know.
For sure, I love watching him play. Like, you always think he's going to do something. I honestly, I was such a fan of Fernandes last season. Like, I don't want to go without him, but from the 3, I'm like, who could maybe not sustain this form? Like, looked at the stats and the chance creation, and is he going to get penalties every other week? You know, so I was kind of like, I don't want to drop him, but out of the 3, it's like, I think I like the other options at United as well. So I'm hoping they can benefit from Fernandes. If he plays well, great. Hopefully Rashford, Martial, Greenwood can benefit from that too. I like all 4 of those from United. All 4, honestly. I could have any pair of them. I'd be happy, really.
I agree.
I'd love Fernandes, Martial, those 2, but I can't afford that with Salah and De Bruyne. So
no, well, not yet. But the season's long and injuries happen. You never know. You never know. KDB goes down. There you go. Not suggesting I want that to happen in any way. But I think then that we're all saying that Salah is kind of essential initially, but he's not, he's not necessarily essential long term. Is that what we're kind of saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. I think that's what Kurt said too for the first 2 game weeks, and then cool. Right, at Rich Maple 3 Lions would like to know the best formation that gets bang for your buck. Kurtie, oi, let's have your best formation.
I think I'm going 4-4-2 at the moment on my current team.
Ooh.
4-4-2. I'm not entirely set on it, and it's purely because I think I can't find a way to get a 5th midfielder, because a 5th midfielder currently is Stevens from Brighton. So ideally, he's not the high scoring 5th midfielder that you'd like.
Nothing
if I did
wrong
go
with
5,
Stevens, he's always been there for us, just making appearances.
Then I've only gone 4 across the midfield, because the 5th midfielder's price is probably put into Trent.
Yeah,
at the moment. And rather than having, and I've gone to up top, I like Jimenez, potentially could move him out for others. And I've gone with Park Life as well because I think he could be a decent option. He's a goal scorer.
Nice.
Park Life. Who's Park Life?
Charlie Austin.
Oh, right,
After his
okay.
rant when he his last season.
Missed that. I'll have to look that up.
I like Austin. I do like Austin.
But then at the same time, I've looked at. It was pointed out that he didn't start too much last season, but then all the strikers for West Brom were rotated. But I think he's got the Premier League pedigree. Robson Kanu didn't really play too much in his previous seasons. Got another spider on my screen, bloody hell. And Kenneth Sahore, well, I think last time he was in the Premier League, I think he was pants. Does it okay in the Championship.
He was at Cardiff, and yeah, he was great in the Championship, but.
There we go. So I've only gone 4-4-2 because I've stuck money into Trent for the season. But if you're not going to get that marquee defender, Trent or Robertson, I wouldn't go Van Dijk, but Trent or Robertson, 5 across midfield, and then it's your pick, 4 at the back or 3 at the back. Got to be 5 across the midfield though, or Trent. One of the
2. Jay, what are your thoughts, buddy, on the bang for your buck formation?
No chance in getting a good answer from me on this one. I just don't think I'm in any position yet to be able to pick on what I think is a nailed-on formation. Because I've looked at some people's sides that have done, say, a 4-3-3, and I've looked at their sides and gone, I like that side. And it's been sides with, like, Trent and Robertson, and then 3 big midfielders, but then their forwards look a lot better than forwards that people with a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2 have. And I will have to pick one at some point, but just all these teams look viable in different formations. I know the big hitters are in midfield, and if you're going with 3 of them, do you need those extra ones if you think the forwards that you could pick up for a similar price or the defenders you could pick up for a similar price are going to do better than the midfielders? So I really don't know. I'm going to be honest. I can't say to you which formation will work. Last year I was like, oh, you need the defenders. They did so well the year before. And then it started off really slowly with defenders. And so many people were saying you have to go big in the back. And it just didn't work out. So I think it's too early to be making those calls.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Brett?
Only that, every couple of days when I log in and draft, like the formation changes, But before the game launched, I was like, I looked at once the game launched, I looked at the midfield options. I was like, okay, 4-5-1, here we go, or 3-5-2. I was like convinced 5 midfielders. And as it's like developed, all of a sudden now I'm on a 3-4-3 at the moment. I just did not expect that, and I'm back to a 3-4-3. Because I've got this thing with Martial now where I get like that, where I've convinced myself I have to own this player. So now I'm playing a 3-4-3. So I don't know. It could end up being any. Like I said, I tried a 4-5-1. I built a decent team with that. There's 4-4-2s as well. I don't think there's any right answer to that, really. You have to wait till
it is a tough one.
To it,
It's a tough one. It is, for sure. It's difficult to make a decision when we haven't really started the season yet and known, how everybody's going to kind of start out the gates, really. Because if we start getting some really good cheap assets in some of the promoted teams as well, that always helps. Do you know what I mean? If you've got a nailed on starter for a cheaper, price, it makes it a lot more.
In most formations, whether you've got a 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 or whatever, 3-5-2, most have got like Werner, for example, as their, sort of pricey striker. If another striker like Aguero or Vardy or Kane gets into form, then people will change their formation and get the 2 up top, like it will change quickly depending on which players play well in the opening few weeks. And on the other hand, if the big hitters, the more expensive strikers all kind of flop and there's a few budget strikers in the market, which, apart from Mitrovic, not many people are going for any others, I don't think. Then it'll change too. If there's value up front, then people will naturally go a bit bigger in midfield because then we can afford some more big hitters like Fernandes, So it all depends what happens in the first few weeks, really.
Agreed. Yeah. definitely. Okay, at FPL_black, asks our thoughts on Willian as an FPL asset. So here's a bit of a different question. We've not had a Willian question yet. So coming to you, Jay, your thoughts on Willian as an FPL asset?
I mean, I'll be honest, I was preparing a video for tomorrow and I was almost putting him in as a player that I suggested could be worth a punt. Because, look, that Arsenal side, I think we'll all agree, is going in the right direction. And I know Willian's probably a bit older than maybe some Arsenal fans would have liked, but he has got Premier League pedigree. At times last season, he did look like an outside shout, although, of course, everyone was looking at Pulisic. And maybe he comes into that Arsenal side with a sense of importance, because he's been brought in. He might have been given a job to do by
What, you mean
Arteta.
like Louise did?
I mean, I wouldn't put Willian in the same bracket as Louise. I know they're not different positions, but I much prefer Willian as a player than I do David Luiz. But I think.
Do you not think his change in position might hamper his, role to what he had in Chelsea, and therefore in making him an FPL asset could be, not quite as interesting as what it was at Chelsea?
I mean, it's always wait and see, isn't it? Because he could become more of an important player at Arsenal, depending on where he's played. He could become less of an important option. But at Chelsea, I don't think he was ever the main go-to guy. At Chelsea. I think everyone was looking at Pulisic. Before that, of course, you had Hazard there. So maybe he now sees this as his chance to do something big in the Premier League to end his career. And he's always one popping up with set pieces. He can take penalties. And he's good at getting assists. So it's one of those that I don't want to outright say, yes, I think it's a definite nailed-on choice. But, I mean, he did play attacking midfield 7 times last season, like centre, where potentially you'd be thinking he'd replace Ozil. So it's not like he's never played in the position he might be put in before. And then if he does play in the position he's used to, he might do well there as well.
Yeah.
Although I do really like Saka, so if Saka's starting, I'd be less inclined to go with Willian.
Agreed. So, as an Arsenal fan, myself and Brett briefly discussed this just before the stream started, actually. It did seem as if we might be between getting Willian or Suarez, in this transfer window. And obviously, we ended up getting Willian. And for me, I would have loved Suarez.
Luis Suarez.
Yeah. Coutinho I'm talking about. What am I talking about Suarez for?
God, I was going to say, if we get Suarez, because he's on a free at the moment, I'd be loving
that. That would be great.
He'd be in my team.
Talking about Ceballos, I was like, who is she talking about?
Yeah, I think I saw us linked with Suarez at one point, and that stuck in my head. Sorry.
I think yesterday he was like, I think it's just yesterday he's on a free or something. So
I think
speculation about Liverpool return and stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
Jeez, Messi, Suarez, we're getting everyone.
Imagine.
Premier League's going to be stacked next year.
Yeah, so Coutinho even. And I would have loved Coutinho to come to Arsenal. I thought it would have been a really good fit. And I was like really hoping that would go through. So when we got Willian, I was a little bit like, oh, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I don't really know how he fits in. And then talking about him playing like central attack. And then I suddenly like, okay, fair enough. We kind of need more of that. Although we have just got Al Neni, obviously Xhaka as well. It's. I'm struggling to see how everybody fits in. But all I'm hoping is that whatever we do this window isn't just a case of buying whoever we can afford in a kind of punt and hope style thing. I'm really hoping Arteta has a specific reason for everybody that he gets, and that it isn't going to cut off, the youngsters' potential that he's been growing, from the end of last season, basically. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process on it. As for Willian as an FPL asset, because I don't know yet where Arteta's going to put him or how everyone else is going to play, it feels like, or where they're going to play, whether Saka stays in the team, etc. It feels like a lot of money to put into a player that I'm uncertain about where he's going to play. I know it's only 7 million really, but it's still a fair chunk of money. Whereas like with Saka, I'm kind of happy to take that punt because it's 5.5 million. But I like with 7 million, when I'm thinking
I think
they're
he might
more
even be
nailed
8,
on.
to be honest. Is he 8 million?
Is he 8? Is he 8?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think he's
so
8, yeah.
wow, gosh, okay, so with exactly, like that is a lot of cash, to
the
be
worry
putting
for
into
me,
somebody.
like, I don't know how many he took last season, but I think a lot of his points did come from penalties, especially in the back end of last season after lockdown. A lot of his goals were from penalties, and obviously Aubameyang is going to take those. So he's kind of lost out there, and a lot of points came from free kicks too. And I think he'll probably share those with Pepe. I know Pepe likes to take some free kicks depending on what side they're on. So a lot of chances are going to be taken away from him there, But Dread FPL in the chat says that he's got Willian in for a 2-game week punt. I don't mind that for 2 game weeks because the fixtures are nice, Fulham, West Ham. And then because the fixtures are bad long term, if you're going to move him on then to maybe Greenwood or maybe like a Chelsea option, Ziyech, once you see how he does. Then I don't mind a 2-game week punt actually, but Willian isn't a player I've considered just because
we have a cup. Do we have a cup game as well? Don't we? Just before
Community Shield,
Community Shield.
That'll be interesting to see where he plays.
That might be a good kind of. I think that might be a good time to have a look at what Arteta might be considering. Definitely going forward. So, Kurt, any thoughts? Have you considered Willian? I know you're quite set on Aubameyang, so I'm not too sure what your thoughts are on a double up. But what are your thoughts on Willian?
Looks a good option. Obviously, it's all about, last week's all about season long now. It's all about, looking at the short term. Obviously, you've got to consider fixtures. And I think Aubameyang is a player that will score any time. I don't worry about him against the big games. Willian obviously creating the chances I do worry about in the big games. For the first 2 weeks, he's one of those players that, we were talking about the blank game week. Get him in first 2 weeks and then get your Man United and Man City players in that you can't afford yet. But for the long term, or at least for, get him out, then get him back in afterwards when the fixtures get a bit better. But the fixtures are tough. But I do like Willian. I do think he's got potential. Whereas Chelsea, you're thinking you've got Pedro, you've got Mason Mount, who's Lampard's golden boy. You've got Pulisic, who was always going to struggle for game time and also not get his preference of potentially playing in attacking midfield. But Mason Mount, you could say, would play, or anyone else. I think now in the Arsenal team, who's going to rival the experience and the pedigree of Willian? The front two, that's it. Ozil, if he decides to turn up, but God knows what's happening with Ozil, probably still playing Fortnite somewhere. Apart from that, he's the more experienced one. I think he'll get the shout. I think he'll walk into the dressing room and say, those free kicks, those corners, they'll be mine now, thank you very much. And I think he's a good option.
Just to quickly say, we've had a couple of requests in the chat to see our teams currently. We do usually share our teams at the beginning of every stream, but with us each kind of deciding our teams separately and at different times at the moment, and those drafts changing, on a daily basis for each of us as content creators, you can find each of those drafts on our own channels for the moment, and then I'm sure in the next week or two we will definitely share what we have for you guys.
Links are in the description for our channels, by the way, so that's a way you can find out more about what we're thinking as far as our teams are concerned.
Definitely. We just like to like the stream to be a lot more about your guys' questions, and at least in the lead up, so that we can kind of get around to chatting with you guys, and then obviously we can go into a bit more detail on our own channels about our teams and explain to you guys why we've gone with those options and things. So, but definitely in the next few weeks we will get those up for you guys. So
also 18 likes with about 70 views. 70 viewers. Come on, guys. Hit that like button and we'll talk about Messi.
68 likes for Messi, 68, 9 likes to send me back to the beach.
Okay.
100 likes, and he may even risk getting fired again.
Not
Oh,
with me.
I do that normally anyway.
Cool. Guyonu asks, should he go with Matt Ritchie at 5 million as Newcastle fixtures looks good, or should he consider another 5 million asset instead? So, Kurt, have you looked at any of the 5 million assets, and what do you think of Matt Ritchie?
Midfield is a barren wasteland when it comes to cheap midfielders that I really like the looks of. In 5 million, Ritchie was, sort of defender, midfielder, wing back last season. So if they do go 5 at the back, he'll be the wing back. For me, midfield up, no, lost all confidence in that. In terms of other 5 million midfielders, there isn't really anyone that turns me on to a point. Souček is one that does, but
Fancy Football Focus loves a bit of Souček. I'm
think
sure
West
he'll be
Ham,
getting that in the
Newcastle
chat.
at home, sorry. That's a good fixture. But then you look at Arsenal, Wolves, Leicester, Tottenham, City, Liverpool. That's a horrific list. And even then, you've still got tough games in Sheffield United away and Man United at home. So Souček eventually you can get in, but for now, no. In terms of anyone else, no. There's not really anyone that pleases me. And
apparently Souček scored today.
He's a goal scorer.
Wow.
He's a goal scorer.
This guy.
I think he needed to settle in at West Ham, but he had a pedigree for it before. I know it was in a league where it's a bit questionable, but he had that record, that background. So I know everyone says he's a central defensive midfielder, but if he's getting in the right places at the right time, although West Ham's fixtures kind of put you off.
The fixtures put you off, and I think it's
but
more
5
point
mil
last
is like
season.
a 5 as your fifth midfielder. It's not terrible, is it? If you want to kind of just have him there in case he starts continuing to be beastly.
In some situations, he's people's 4th midfielder, though.
Yeah, that's when it gets a bit more like, yeah.
But even then, I think it was more last season. Maybe he didn't do it eventually and then got into it because West Ham ended up getting to a point where they were all right at the end of the season, and with the midfield, with some of them sitting back, he was given a license to go forward, and that's always important. They can beat whoever attacking. I mean, you've seen it with when Man City, for example, when they go really attacking, they're like 1-0 down, they're hunting for a goal. All of a sudden, De Bruyne sits back as a defensive midfielder. He no longer has the license to go forward. He operates as that man to sort of, if they want the ball, they go down the left-hand side, blocks off, back to De Bruyne, ping pass straight out to the right-hand side. He becomes that sort of player. So he becomes less of a threat for FPL points in terms of getting a goals and assists. That's similar with Souček, I think. I think he's been given more of a license to roam forward, and if he continues that license, 5 million is a steal. And that's the way I look at it. I mean, he will come into my team. He's not in there at the moment, but again, that is because the fixtures look dreadful, and West Ham are a team that can get battered still, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're not the most, the stronger of the teams, are they?
0.5 more and you can get Saka, who got an assist today, just saying.
God, the Arsenal bias.
Saka could get dropped for Willian.
Don't think so. I mean, I think it would be an awful call on Arteta's part if he does.
Surely Saka's one of the players that has proven himself to at least get the chance.
Like when I watch Saka play, like I was saying this earlier as well, it really reminds me a lot of how Mane plays, and I just see that spark in him, and yeah, I just really rate the kid highly. Not gonna lie, I don't think he'll stay at 5.5 for very long, especially if he continues to stay in that, playing in that Arsenal team for sure. But yeah, we are going to come to some questions soon in the chat. Matt Ritchie, though, I do quite like him as an option. He did miss a fair bit of the season, didn't he, with injury last season. So I think, and Newcastle do have some good fixtures. I don't dislike it as an option. He's definitely made a few of my drafts at times. So yeah, I think, he's pretty nailed on in that team. They have good fixtures, 5 million. You can't really, it's like, it's kind of him or Souček at 5 million, isn't it, really? Just got to Got to take a punt with one of them, I think, or go cheaper or invest more. I think is probably the crux of it. Okay, cool, Brett. Because we had such a successful quickfire round last week, I've dedicated a bit more time to it this week. So if you want to get set up for that, that'd be kind of cool. So do get your quickfire questions in the chat. So we quite liked the kind of yes, no, this player or this player style questions last week, didn't we? So, but before we get going with that, did we have any like longer questions that you felt needed some attention?
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean before we go to quickfire?
Yeah, let's just do one or two like more meatier questions from the chat.
Yeah, there's a question here from Tush, and it's one that I'm keen to talk about because it's something I've been considering quite strongly, actually. He asks, is Joe Gomez overlooked as an option to get these Liverpool clean sheets with a comparatively cheaper price? And basically, I had this thought in my head where I was like, I'm struggling to afford Robertson. I only trust Liverpool defence. I've got Trent. I wouldn't mind doubling up. Ooh, I'll go and see how much Gomez is. And I assumed he'd be 6 million this season. That would be my prediction. He's 5.5 again. You know? So he's $1 million cheaper than Van Dijk, 1.5 less than Robbo. So what do we think? Is he being overlooked? Would you guys consider Joe Gomez? Because I certainly have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the idea at all. I think he made my team a couple of times last season. He's definitely a nice, cheap way into that Liverpool defence. Clearly doesn't get some of the bonus points and attacking, and all that stuff as some of the others do. And Liverpool didn't seem quite as defensively solid to me towards the end of last season, but I don't know whether that's because they've taken the foot off the gas and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit difficult to judge that one yet, or whether they just, were in the vibe of it and they're not anymore. But I definitely don't dislike him as an option at 5.5. The only thing I always get a bit funny about going double Liverpool in defence is that I always suddenly think, what if I want another attacking threat for Liverpool? Say Firmino does start to go nuts this season, it ends up being his season. Or
how much is Firmino this season?
I don't actually know.
He better not be 9.5 again. If so, that's a joke.
I think he's overpriced. I think from memory.
I think
9.5. He's
9.5 is just ridiculous. A joke. That it should have gone down to 9 or 8.5. I reckon.
Yeah,
but he plays for Liverpool. That's the only reason he's that high.
Champions, aren't they? So yeah.
One home goal all season.
Yeah.
I love him as a player, by the way. Just before anyone, doesn't.
He's a great player, but it's one of those that can't really get you those FPL points you want.
Definitely. So yeah, but it does take away from that option of going Mane Salah, which of course is something that I often end up on at some point in the season. But it doesn't necessarily have to be at the same time you have Gomez with, Trent or Robbo. So definitely don't dislike it for 5.5 as an option. I haven't really done a draft yet that has gone with a 5.5 alongside or more alongside Trent. It's all Trent and 4.5s and 4 mils, to be honest. So that's probably why I haven't even considered him, really. But that's my take.
Yeah, I had a couple of drafts with 5.5s alongside Trent, and originally it was Tierney because I was quite keen to have him.
Mm-hmm.
If I couldn't afford to go up to Robbo at 7, who I'm really keen to get. But then when the fixtures came out, when Arsenal's fixtures after 2 game weeks were pretty terrible, I was like, okay, I can't really have Tierney long term then. So that's when Gomez came into the sort of equation then. And I know they did not keep as many clean sheets as we expected last season. Man City and Burnley got more, I think. But overall, the goals conceded were still, I think, the best in the league. There's just... a lot of games they conceded just 1, which is frustrating. But Adrian was in goal a couple of times for quite a bit as well, and I think I think they were a little bit unlucky not to keep more clean sheets. They're just so reliable. I think as long as Van Dijk is there,
Well, he went off injured today in the friendly,
Ooh.
but I did hear.
Okay, that is interesting.
Yeah, I heard though that it was more of a superficial injury, so a cut, I think. So they took him off precautionary because it was a friendly. So yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I still trust them defensively. I do, any team. The only team when I look at my FPL team, I think, oh, they got a chance of a clean sheet. It's normally Liverpool, And
yeah.
Well, not Burnley.
Yeah.
Well, but when I don't have Burnley defenders, yes, that's when I'm like, they're going to get a clean sheet this week. Nick Pope will get one away to Man City or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, good question. I mean, Kurt or Jay, any thoughts on Gomez before we move on, or not really?
If you've already got Robertson, or if you've got a Trent, I don't see the point in going for Gomez as well, personally.
5.5 though.
5.5, but then you've got 2 Liverpool defenders, and that Gomez 5.5, which is expensive for a second defender. If you've already got a Trent or Robbo, you're banking pretty much on clean sheets. It's not one like Trent or Robbo who can get attacking returns. In fact, how much did he get in terms of attacking returns last season? 0 goals, 0 assists in 1,999 minutes.
He had 1 shot on goal.
And the season before that, 1,000 minutes, 0 goals, 0 assists.
You're not paying the big bucks. You're not paying the big bucks.
Yeah, but
5.5 is still expensive.
Yeah,
You've already got a £7.5 million defender.
4.5. You can have Walker Peters at 4.5, who loves to
I would
do a
much
bit of
rather
attacking.
if he's your only Liverpool defender, then yeah, go for it. Why not? But if you've already got Trent or Robbo, it's far too expensive because that's a lot of money in Liverpool defenders. If he's your only option, go for it. If you've got a Liverpool defender already, then it's I think it's too much.
Is a fair point,
basically, you're going 4.5 or across the board, if not 4.
I tell you at 5.5, who I do like as a centre-back that I've considered is Tarkowski as well. I know he's 5.5, but he can get attacking returns. Like, he does pull out some 15-pointers now and again. So
I'm always so shocked you don't just, live in 5 at the back, Brett, because you love defenders. Like, I see you having, 2 Liverpool defenders, 2 Burnley defenders.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I love Trent and Robbo.
Just some random person that none of us
I'm trying so hard to fit Robbo into the team alongside Trent. I'm struggling now because I'm got this thing about Martial, and it's just getting so hard to own everyone, But Robbo, Robertson, 181 points last season, I think. The season before, 213, the record, the most the defenders ever scored, right? He's 7 million. Now, you look at the midfielders and the strikers at 7 million this season. None of them will get close to 180 points. So then my head's saying, well, why haven't you got Robbo then? Surely that's a no-brainer, but I can't fit him in at the moment. So it's it does seem like a no-brainer when he's getting that many points for 7 million, That's what my head's saying, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, I have to drop Werner or Martial, then I get worried that I'm weakening my team. And I look at the first 18 game weeks for Liverpool, and it's over the long term, those 18 game weeks, they've got a great run, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I do avoid a lot of big teams because they are the big team, But
I think the worry is, will they regress from last season? They had a great season the year before they won the league and just got pipped at the end. They had a great season after, and there's always that case of most teams have a season when they've been doing really well where suddenly they're not the team we all expected them to be. And I think there's a bit of a fear that this could be the year Liverpool don't do as well as they have been previously.
Yeah.
I mean, if they start off all guns firing and the defence is getting clean sheets, then I'll probably completely change my tune. But for right now, 1 Liverpool defender seems enough for me until I know more.
Yeah.
I always just get drawn through. He's 11% owned, and just...
I think my mistake last season was I went too much on, I think this is going to happen, picked my team around that, and then when what I thought was going to happen didn't happen, my team wasn't versatile enough or flexible enough to change with how things were going. I got Pookie way late compared to everyone else. So even those that got the last of Pookie's points, I didn't even get those.
Yeah.
So I just feel like if I go too heavy in Liverpool defence and it just doesn't work, then I'm making the same mistakes I made last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's an interesting point actually, is kind of whether or not you're flexible enough whether you kind of jump on the bandwagon, because I know for a lot of people they were just like, Pookie will, I remember it with you, Jay, you were like, he has to end this at some point, you know, and you just kind of kept hoping that it would come to an end. So it's kind of judging that, you know, that little break, I guess, of what's really like a good time to get on and off. But just my thoughts on Robbo and Trent is I actually feel like, although Trent is in my team, he was the first name in my team this season, I actually feel like it could swap over again this season, and it could be Robertson that could be the highest scorer out of the two this season, you know? So
easily happen. It'll be close. It'll be close. They got like 14 assists to 12 or something this season, you know? Trent's got obviously the free kicks, so they've got a bit more goal threat. But yeah, Robbo was the record breaker the season before, you know. So
agreed. We do have a question here from Elite FPL that I think is quite a good one. Do you think aggressive rotation of for favourable fixtures is a good tactic, i.e. Salah to Bruno in game week 2, Alba to Salah game week 3? Or do you think this is a formula for taking unnecessary point hits? Kurt, what's your thoughts on that one, buddy?
You get it right, it's a genius move. If you get it wrong, you're a donkey. That's in the end of the day, that's the way that's the way it'll be perceived. I mean, there'll always be people that are there to support you, but there'll be people that are there just saying, well, you get it right, then fair enough, you've done well. If you get it wrong, then, well, you don't know what you're talking about. You're all over the shop. Personally, I don't see it as a risk at all, because you've got to get them in. And if anything, even if it isn't for, and if they don't return points, if the fixtures aren't good, purely for the fact De Bruyne's gone down 25% and will continue to go down more than 25%. So all those players that we're going to get in, their price will go up. And then if you bring Salah back in, his price will be down. Aubameyang's price will be down. So I think you're probably looking at it's a necessity just to make sure your team value's up. And that's the way I'll be looking at it. If I get to the point where Salah's not getting any transfers out, he may even come into my team for a bit if the fixtures look good and someone's not dropped in form or has been maybe injured, just purely because I know his value's going to go up. So I don't see it as too much of a risk. I think it's a necessity.
So you think jumping on and off is a good strategy? Yeah,
because it may not. You know, obviously, it's you can say if you have a bad game week 1, well, what does that matter? Bad for first 4 game weeks. There's 34 game weeks left in the season. Right, you start a bit behind, but if you can get that team value up, or if you make it through risk, it could even pay off with your team value going up. So personally, I just see it as with this season obviously being another bizarre start to a season, the last one being a bizarre end. You've got to go for it. You've got to risk it.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jay?
I mean, as far as team value goes, if you call it correctly, you could see your team value rise. I do worry that if you're so focused on that as your strategy, that you're potentially missing out on some of the bandwagons at cheaper prices. So for every year we get, say, maybe a 6.5, a 7, a 5.5. You get some sort of players that no one expected to do as well as they're doing, and you're so focused on changing your big hitters that you might be a bit too slow to react to someone in a different price bracket. I always want to be flexible and ready to make different decisions. So if you're straight off the bat saying this is the moves I'm going to make, then you're pigeonholing yourself right at the beginning of the season. And again, that was something I did last season and it didn't help me. But team value wise, you're making sure you don't lose too much team value. And of course, these are the players that can score big, especially in easy fixtures. So you could be seeing the benefit of it if you call it right. But it's one of those things, it's risk versus reward. If you call it right, fantastic. If not, you've just been transferring in and out players that have made no difference to your FPL rank.
Yeah. What about you, Brett? And a small cameo from your cat there in the background.
What is that?
Is that what you were smiling about? I was like, did I say something funny? I don't think I did.
I didn't even notice that.
His cat just jumped on the bed.
A 5th wildcat.
Yeah, fifth wildcat. So yeah, any thoughts on that, George?
Yeah, this is a good question. This is something I think will feature prominently this season because so many good options are all priced the same or very similar. So
Yeah.
we can't have them all. Aubameyang, Sterling, De Bruyne, Salah, Mane, they're all 11.5, 12 million. We can't have them all. And if you time that move of a Salah to Sterling correctly, you know, this is something I'll give Late Riser a shout out on here from FS Scout because, like,
Yeah.
this is what his season last was built on. It was like, so when when Jason is asking, you know, doing Salah to Bruno game week 2 and Orban Salah game, I'm not talking about that consistently where you're swapping around every single week.
Yeah.
There is going to be moments when you can time it right, when you can see a trend of everyone starting to go for Salah maybe, and you think, hang on, there's a big hitter being overlooked, Sterling, and then you captain him. And you can jump like get a 40-point swing, and that's what shoots you up the rankings, you know, without risking all the other players in your squad. You're just making that one move with a good captaincy call. And I think there will be a lot of that this season because, like I said, there's so many great players that we can't all have all around the same price. So, I'm not suggesting that, you know, I'm going to be doing that every single week, but there is going to be occasions where if you time it correctly and you get that feeling that it could pay off to switch a big hitter around, you know?
Yeah, agreed. I think it's definitely a good tactic if you can get it spot on, but it is getting it spot on, isn't it? And to be fair, I think it definitely requires a certain amount of luck that I always feel like I don't really carry for these things. So, but you know, there are a couple of times in a season, like I think I was one of the fairly early ones to get on Bruno, for instance, when he first arrived, and that paid off pretty healthily. I'm not a fan of necessarily like, you know, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever, because for me, it always ends up being, I end up having other fires to put out in my team. And then like with all the best intentions to move Salah back to Aubameyang for a certain fixture or to KDB for a certain fixture or something, usually tends to go out the window because so-and-so's gone and got injured, or I now don't have a keeper that plays, or, you know, something random like that. And then I end up kind of not being able to quite make the that kind of hop on, hop off move. But I do agree, Brett. There is a tactic to be had there if you can get it right of spotting when everyone else is going for a certain player. And I think that's where Mane could be quite important this season, you know, at the moment being so lowly owned that, you know,
Definitely.
his differential. I mean, I'm still hurt on the whole triple captain thing with Mane coming on, being injured a few minutes in, not get me many points. However, I do have to get over that bias because I do feel like he could be a good differential this season for us. That we're not even considering right off of the bat. You know, it's exactly what you were just saying about Late Riser. We're all looking at Salah. We can't not have him. He's too dangerous. All these sorts of things. And then sat next to him is Mane. That if Mane scores a brace and Salah gets 1 goal and an assist, you know, or an assist in that match, there's a massive difference in your OR already just from the first game week. So, you know, it's definitely good tactic. I did just want to mention, I'm not sure if you saw this one, Brett, the Soteris question. He did ask it a couple of times, so I do want to touch upon it. He said, hey, keep up the content. Feedback on this draft, please. 4-3-3, McCarthy, Trent, Tini, Dyer, Bergson, Son, Albert, Ziyech, Werner, Mitrovic, and Jimenez. So, Kurt, any thoughts on that team initially, buddy?
There's so many bugs in this room. Sorry. Had things landing on my arms. I've got a spider keep on going up. There's another one there. Hello, little fella. Sorry, you're going to get chucked across over here somewhere. Sorry, what was the team? I'm completely distracted there.
I thought you might be. If we just wait for Jay a second, actually, and I'll mention it when he gets in as well.
Ding. Oh, no, squished him.
Oh.
A tissue.
Okay, so
what on earth did I come back to? Squished him? What?
Kurt seems to be being attacked by spiders.
Oh, okay.
We've got a question, Jay, about a rate my team question. So feedback on a draft. McCarthy, Trent, Teeny, Dyer, Ferguson, Son, Albert, Ziyech, Werner, Mitrovic, and Jimenez. So I've just asked for Kurt's opinion on that before I come to everyone else.
Very striker heavy. That's a lot
agreed.
of funds
Whose
up there.
was that?
And
who asked the question?
Soteris.
Was that from the chat?
Yeah.
So my worry is with that. Is a guy you can play with information you want. If you feel like strikers are good, then fair enough. But in terms of good replacements that are proven, in terms of price bracket for both Mitrovic and also Jimenez and Werner, there's nothing. So if let's say Jimenez gets injured for a few months, Werner is really out of form, something like that. If you're looking to get them out, you potentially look at a -4 because there's no one really at that price point. You're not going to replace Werner with Firmino, are you? That is my only worry. Apart from that, it looks as solid as any other team.
I don't know. I mean, I'd kind of argue differently in the respect that he's so expensive that you could pretty much move to almost anyone else with Werner. But I do
but then also you've got the money. If you move to Werner, let's say to Charlie Austin, you get an extra few £1 million in the bank. But if you're going to reinvest that straight away, you need a bank transfer or a -4.
Absolutely.
So that's the only problem, is that there's not a plethora of strikers like there has been last season that are guaranteed A, playing time, and B, goals. Kane's looked out of it. We know Aguero and Jesus will switch. Jamie Vardy's probably the only other option there, but that's it for me. No one else really sparks conversation.
Yeah, well, immediately what stands out to me is that he doesn't have any Liverpool attack, so that would concern me. I'm assuming he's going for Alba instead. And also Dyer is an option. I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah, we had a question about that in the quickfire as well.
Did we? Okay, so maybe we can answer that then in a second. But Jay, any more thoughts on that? On his team?
I mean, I know we always say form over fixtures, but if I was going for someone in Jimenez's price bracket, I'd be leaning towards Ings for the start of the season.
Agreed.
I like Mitrovic. I think there's the potential that he starts this season like he started 2 seasons ago. I personally would prefer 2 expensive midfielders. If I wasn't going to have a Liverpool attacker, I'd be very tempted to have 2 Liverpool defenders just to try and cover the points.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to captain Salah or Mane, then I can understand you not necessarily wanting to put him in your side if you've got other players you're very happy to captain. Ferguson, I still need to wait and see if he's definitely nailed on as a starter, because there's a couple of 4 million price defenders that could be starters. Ferguson seemed the favourite for that, but from what I heard, he didn't start in the friendly that Crystal Palace just played. And I think there's a lot of defenders that at this point of the in pre-season we still got to kind of wait and see on. And Dyer, I mean, I just don't get on with Mourinho as a manager of any FPL assets. I think as soon as he joins the club, I'm put off by picking that club's players. And whilst he is meant to be good at sorting out a team as far as they are concerned defensively, it doesn't inspire much confidence getting going with Dyer.
Cool. Good answer. Yeah. Brett, anything to add to that, buddy?
Yeah, not too much. I mean, I had a little moment where I was considering a Spurs defender because they are 5 million, some of them. Like Dyer is, Ben Davis, 5 million. And I was looking at Sessegnon because I was wondering if he was finally going to start this season, because at Fulham he showed a lot of attacking potential, and now he's being reclassified as a defender. So I thought, could Sessegnon be, an attacking defender? But it's just a bit of worry about rotation there and whether he starts. The point I want to make that puts me off Spurs defenders is just that they had 7 clean sheets last season, and only Bournemouth. And I'm just trying to think who got relegated last season. I can't remember now.
Norwich.
Bournemouth and Norwich only kept less clean sheets than Spurs last season. So that is a bit of a worrying stat.
Yeah, I think the only one I'd really consider is Aurier if he stays because of his attacking threat. That's
True, then he's 5.5, you know.
Yeah, it's the extra 0.5.
I think the reason everyone went with him last year is because he was cheaper.
Yeah.
At 5.5, it's just a bit like, you kind of want the clean sheets and the potential attacking returns.
Yeah.
The fixtures are good, you know. So at 5 million, Dyer's okay. I'm not feeling it.
It is his second season, though. He usually does well in his second season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, let's go on with some quick fire.
Okay, cool.
I do have one to start with, though, for it. That came in via...
God, she's taken over your part of the show, Brett. This is...
No, it's all Brett. It's just...
You can take it over, honestly.
No. This one's yours. It's all yours, buddy.
That's your first written warning, Nim. 36 more and you catch up to me.
Wow, just my first. Oh, I think I can afford it. My first yellow card. Okay.
You did get 200 for writing me up, but apparently they were declined by the HR department. So
cool. Okay, at McTivis has a question for your quickfire round, Brett. He says, which Wildcat will finish top out of the four of us this season? So we've all got to give an answer.
Yeah, that's awkward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not at all. Me.
I'll say Jay.
Yeah, I think Jay as well.
Come on, Kurt, make it a clean sweep.
Either myself or Brett.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Oh, nice.
The nice version of me was going to say Brett.
Oh,
cheers, mate.
I'm loving how I'm an underdog. Although I did almost win it last year. Just saying.
You did.
Cool. All right, you can crack on now, buddy.
Okay, so this will be a quick one. It's a yes or no. Carry256 asks, how many of you guys have Salah in your team? So I do.
I do.
Jay?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, we all got it. Okay.
Clean sweep.
Okay, quick answer then. Mark Bain wants to know, how much will Messi be in FPL?
We haven't reached 68 likes, so I'm not commenting.
How many likes are we on?
We're on 32, according to my screen.
Okay.
He'll be expensive.
14
for
mil.
More details, hit that like button.
I'll say 13.5.
Yeah, it's got to be 13.5 or 4, isn't it? 14.
Okay. Harshal wants to know, would it be risky to go without any Chelsea or Man United attack and rather to double up on Man City? I'm assuming he means longer term rather than just a blank week. Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, we're all like...
We're waiting for you to nominate us, Brett.
Am I nominating? Or...
Yeah.
Okay, go on, then.
Anyway, we're going to answer it.
God.
Is it risky to go without Chelsea and United?
Yes, I think so. This season, they're just going to be too strong. I think Chelsea, possibly to start with, might take a bit of footing with all the new players to try and figure out who's where and which one will be a best FPL assets for us. But I think, it would be too risky to go without them entirely, personally.
Anyone else? 20 seconds?
Season long, yes. If you're just thinking about the start of the season, there's always a chance that Chelsea, like Nim said, take some time to settle in. And United will have maybe less rest than other sides. So maybe they need a bit more time to settle in as well.
Cool. There you are, Harshal. Okay, Brian Ewell. Hey, Brian. He wants to know, if Van Dijk is injured, does that make Keita more of an option than double Liverpool defence? So, Naby Keita, not a player that gets talked about much. What do we think? Kurt, is Keita in any way an option?
No.
Jay?
I mean, it'd have to start getting some FPL returns for me to want him. But I have seen a lot of people suggest that he is capable of that.
How much
but
is he this season? Is he like 5.5?
5.5.
That's not bad, though, is it? It's cheap, but yeah. Nim?
2 goals, 3 assists last season. So he'd need to improve on that.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't think Van Dijk is really, injured, so that it would really be that much of a...
And
of a thing.
Is Thiago confirmed for Liverpool, or is it still in the works? Because that's going to have a bearing on the midfield as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I like Keita as a player, but 5.5 is good as well because he was like 7 when he first signed in the first season. But it just takes up a Liverpool spot, doesn't it? And I'm not a fan of him as an FPL option. Okay, done that one. Okay, so Alex the kid. Hey Alex, he's asked a couple of questions in one here, but I'll just stick to the simple one. So he says, De Bruyne or Sterling? Jay?
De Bruyne.
Kurt?
Bruyne.
Nim?
Oh, you know when you think you should say KDB, for some reason my gut just instantly went Sterling. Then it just went Sterling. So I don't know. Maybe that's a premonition for you, but I feel like I should say KDB. But for some reason, Sterling is where my head went straight away. Then so. Yeah,
it's an impossible question, really. I mean, my head's saying KDB. I mean, it seems the sensible one for the consistency. But if Sterling starts how he ended last season, then he's an unbelievable option as well, you know. But he was so poor at the start of last season that it's hard to know which Sterling we're going to get. You know, De Bruyne we know what we're getting every week with him. He's always top of his game, you know. So I think De Bruyne, but Sterling will certainly be in my team at some point in the season, I'm sure.
Also, here in this channel, we don't trust Nim's gut, we trust Nim's dreams.
That's true. If it's not in a dream.
Nim's gut, nothing to me. Absolutely, does absolutely nothing.
I'd already
Nim's
forgotten
dreams,
what she'd said.
Now
I
I'm
was
listening.
waiting for a dream.
Now I'm listening.
Wow, this is a great question for
Well,
Nim.
remember about the alien injury dream, see if that comes about.
Right, so Nim, just remember there's only 60 seconds for this, all right?
Oh, no.
You only got 60 seconds.
Why are you singling me out?
You'll see, you'll understand.
Okay.
Carrie wants to know, what does everyone think of Aguero for this season?
Okay.
Avoid. Absolutely avoid, 100%.
Yeah, same. Unless it looks like he's nailed on and is firing again, avoid.
I love him. I love Aguero.
That wasn't. We're talking FPL here. Yeah.
I genuinely think you cannot beat him. Like, he just is so good. Obviously, we'll have to see what happens with Messi. I don't think it'll happen. But if he's back and he's fit, then I'm not sure Pep can leave him out of that team. And if he's playing, then I can't not have him. I can't not consider him for FPL. At some point, I cannot, like Brett has said many times, I cannot imagine not having him in my team at some point this season, captaining him.
With a blank first and then Wolves away next, I'm not worried about Aguero.
No, not to start with.
And I think they've got like Leicester as well straight after. So
yeah.
I'm not too worried about the first 3, but if he shows any hint of form, and I think he could explode, I love him as a captain option to bring in, a bit like what Jason was saying about these big hitters, swapping them in and out.
Yeah,
you know, Aguero could be a potentially huge rank boosting option.
Just out of interest, does Nim know the last time Aguero was the top scorer in the league? I just want to see how big a fan she is.
It certainly wasn't in the last 2 seasons.
Correct.
Probably not the season before that. Maybe 4 seasons ago.
No, 6 seasons ago.
Ooh.
2014-15. 26
and this is meant to be the magical player that we all should bring in.
I knew Kurt would love that.
Starting a new trend. We've had
but
boycott
he is
Mane, we've had
always
boycott
there or
Salah,
thereabouts. You
boycott
cannot
Aguero,
lie.
he's a fraud.
You cannot lie that he is always there or thereabouts with the points.
He's a fraudulent old man. He's been investigated.
You make me want to look that up now.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't be the price he's at in FPL if he wasn't always there.
I think
or thereabouts.
part of his price is because he's so explosive. But sorry, we're taking over Brett's round now.
Yes,
I apologise.
It's not round. It's all good. Just all together.
Boycott Aguero.
All right, we'll go back to Alex because I said he asked about the 2 and 1.
That might be your last warning, Kurt. Come on.
He was very close the last 2 seasons, according to what I'm looking at.
Wasn't top.
Yeah, I think he only made team of the season once, which is incredible.
Because he's been close to getting golden boot, hasn't he? The last couple of times, and then he just goes and gets injured.
21 goals 2018-19, and it was 22 goals was the top scorers.
In terms of minutes played to goals scored, he's just
definitely.
ridiculous.
If he actually
10.5, like
if he stayed injury free,
yeah,
10.5 is a bargain for Aguero this season.
yes, agreed.
Okay, so I'll go back to Alex because he had a few questions in one. So the next one, he wants to know which from Man United: Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, and Fernandes. So what if we just go 2 names each? I mean,
sorry, what were the names? Apologies.
Rashford, Martial,
Basically
Greenwood,
United.
Fernandes.
Okay.
I mean, it's price dependent, really, isn't it? But
Yeah, it
is there 2 particular players out of those that you fancy?
Greenwood and Martial.
Nice. That's all I got at the moment. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Good.
I like Rashford. I like Fernandes.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Struggling. I keep switching. Greenwood was my initial, definitely him, and then I kind of flip between the other 3. I think Rashford's getting overlooked a bit.
He is. His underlying stats, big chances last season. He should have had a lot more goals.
Yeah, agreed.
That'll be interesting from midfield as well.
But you cannot fault what Bruno has brought to United. No. Budget-wise, Greenwood, Martial, as you were saying earlier, is a nice kind of way to cover not having Bruno. But yeah, I do like Bruno. Can't deny what he's done for United. So. Yeah,
price dependent. I'm just going to quickly say Fernandes and Martial for me are the 2 I would love to have. So since Fernandes signed in game week 24 last season, from game week 24 onwards, the 2 highest scoring players in FPL were Fernandes and Martial. 115 points for Fernandes, 109 for Martial. They were the 2 highest scoring players since game week 24. And Martial was right up there without penalties as well. I know he's a forward now, but Martial was transformed since Fernandes signed. Those 2, just unbelievable. I'd love to have both of those. Right. Next question then from Alex as well. Is Foden a viable option?
I don't think so.
No.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think he'll get enough minutes. Still, I want him to. I really think it would be good for his progression, and his chances to play for England potentially even. But I just worry that Mahrez might be the one to come in for Sane, and then Foden kind of picks up what's spare. And of course, there's still Bernardo Silva.
I think my dalliance with him towards the end of last season has me a little bit wary of him because he always looked like he could go
He
nuts
was meant to be my
every
saviour.
Single game.
He's 20
exactly.
Now, though. He's 20. Come on,
I definitely think he'll keep improving, but that's as long as he plays.
Playing, hasn't he?
This
is frustrating.
If it wasn't Pep, I might have a little bit more faith.
When he hit form last season, I was thinking, you know what, Foden, one of the first names on my team sheet next year. But the more about it, the more I'm like,
I wouldn't rule him out as coming in at some point in the season.
I will be ready to bring him in. But just
I wouldn't be like he is my transfer in for game week 2. Basically,
I really like Mahrez if he got the game time. His performances with the amount of minutes he had, I'm just like, if he could just get more nailed on.
Yeah, I think we had Booner in the chat saying he's going to get Mahrez for game week 3. Oh no, that was Dread. Sorry, Dread FPL. He's going to take a punt on Willian for 2 weeks at 8 million, and then
switch
go to Mahrez for game week 3. Okay, who else have we got? Okay, so Ant A, thanks for your question, but about Messi, we've already sort of talked about him. How much would be in FPL? Would you rip up your drafts to accommodate Messi? Just a yes or no then. Would you rip up your draft to accommodate Messi?
I think you'd have to, because he'd just be so highly owned by everybody that you just couldn't. Yeah, and him against some of the teams in the Premier League. Oh my God! Seriously, it would be ridiculous.
I know, but can you imagine some of the awfully imbalanced teams with just
they're
Messi?
just going to be terrible.
Build a nice balanced team and try and beat the Messi teams or something.
Yeah, no. To be fair, it'd be fun, but I
wonder what his ownership would be just for the celebration of him actually being in the Prem would be like, oh my God, you have to own him, sort of thing.
Yeah,
crazy. Jay and Kurt, would you rip up your team if Messi comes to the Prem?
Not for game week 1, no.
Of course, I forgot about that. We'd have to prepare, wouldn't we? You'd have to save 2 million in the bank. It's like over to Messi.
Yeah, basically.
I mean,
yeah.
there's the possibility he goes somewhere else, but yeah, I'm assuming if it happens,
That's really wildcard territory if he signs, isn't it? It's like, okay, we'll build a team without him and then wildcard into Messi for game week 3 or something. Kurt, just quickly, yes or no, would you rip your team for Messi?
Probably, yeah. You can't really help it.
Yeah. Right. Let's see if we got any more.
Would you lose Aubameyang for Messi though, Kurt? That is
Yes.
the question.
No, I'd lose Salah.
I knew he was going to say that. That's why I asked.
Honestly, Aubameyang is set in stone for my team. I'm not joking.
I love it. Love it.
Right, so we've got 2 questions left. Tush wants to know, what do we think as DCL as an option? 7 million with good fixtures, did well last year, but his form wasn't good after the restart. What do we think of DCL?
no, I'm not going there again. Not for a
Turn
while.
me on.
Nim?
No, I wasn't really convinced towards the end of last season. I think he's the type of bandwagon that I would like to see him doing quite well before hopping on.
Yeah, sorry, Tush. I agree with these guys. It's not just because of my bad experience with DCL either, because I brought him in for like the last 8 game weeks or something, and I didn't get any goals from him. He didn't give me 1 attacking return in like 7 game weeks of owning him. I'm just avoiding Everton altogether. I don't even worry about avoiding them at all. They're so unpredictable at the moment. Not sure what to expect from them. I'm pretty happy to go without them, and I'm not sure DCL is going to get the service that he needs. He's the type of player that needs good crosses and stuff, and I don't know. Dinya's there for good crosses, but
Yeah.
I'm not fancying DCL personally. But if you go for it, good luck, mate. I would never say don't go for it if you're feeling it. Okay, last question. So Ant A wants to know, first manager to be sacked.
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
Ooh. I'm just
Which
trying
is a
to
little
think
bit
of all.
thought.
Yeah, just trying to think about all the managers.
I've got the table up. Yeah, can we start that again so we know the
I'm
team?
gonna say like Scott Parker, probably Fulham. I don't know. It's got
Slavan Bilic.
Yeah, maybe Bilic. Yeah, you'd think it would be maybe Fulham or West Brom. Who else? Steve Bruce, maybe, if they don't start well. I quite like Bruce personally, but I know Newcastle fans, expect maybe a bit better because it's not the best football. I think Newcastle, the type of team, if they don't start pulling results in quickly, the fans get frustrated quickly. Same with West Ham, David Moyes. Like if the West Ham fans, expect a lot as well, and I think if they don't start well, the fans turn quickly on West Ham.
I'd go with Hodgson at Palace because they're not.
Yeah, I was thinking that actually.
Palace, well, not only because I want Palace to go down because they're a scummy club, but also I think they're not doing well in the transfer market. They ended the season shockingly. Hodgson's going in that territory that I think Mark Hughes is in, where tactically and everything, in every sense of the word, he's a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to management. And eventually, when that happens, it's just time for them to retire. Either that or Ancelotti.
I was about to say who's the Watford manager, but they've gone down, haven't they?
Yeah, that's already
It's always a good bet.
Oh,
It's always a good bet.
There was no need for that bet. It's me.
I mean, we could see. Do you think we'll get an Ollie out at all during this season now? What with them getting and having so many good players, but couple of lost games there early on in the season, it could start again. Maybe
I think you always get Ollie outs from. There's like a bit of a split fan base there, perhaps. You know. But the way they played at the end of last season, the players they've got now, Pogba, Fernandes, Greenwood, Rashford, Martial, like. They've got to pull out some good results.
Yeah, but that's what I mean with those players. If they don't,
where
does that fall?
That's true. If they don't, I can't see them going through a really bad spell because those players are just too good with Fernandes there. But if they do, you'll be under pressure for sure. So okay, let's just try and give one answer then each. So I'm gonna go. I think Bilic is a good shout actually, but I'm gonna go for Moyes. I'll just go Moyes. Just West Ham, yeah. That'll do.
I'm with Kurt. Yeah, I'm with Kurt.
I'm not a
I think.
manager.
Hodgson.
Oh, I was going to say, bloody hell. FPL Wildcats don't count. In that case, I need to be on my best behaviour, apparently. The leader of the Wildcats at the time I'm getting sacked, so... Blimey.
Surely you're used to it by now.
Yeah, you should be used to it by now.
Brian
says Dean Smith. I mean, he'd probably be gone if they got relegated. They just survived. He could be in trouble. If they start badly again, Villa, Dean Smith could be in trouble, couldn't he? Because a lot of fans were on his back last season. Jay, you going Bilic or?
Yeah, I'm sticking with Bilic.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that's all the questions.
Cool. Okay, then we're just time then for Jeffers' corner question. I actually don't have a thought on this one yet, so I'm hoping you guys.
I don't even know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Brilliant.
So Jeffers' corner at Austin66 UK, one of our regulars, always gives us a non-FPL question as a bit of a way to finish up the stream, so you guys can get to know us a little bit better. We're family here after all. So, which non-musical movie would you like to see remade as a musical? Does anybody, while we're thinking about this, don't forget to like and subscribe, please, everyone who's enjoying the content. And yeah, do check out our sponsors, Fantasy Football Scout as well. So yes, what are we thinking, lads? Anyone got an initial thought process?
The thing is, like, a musical makes the film a bit cheesier then.
I know.
So if I'm picking like one of my favorite films, which is like a war epic or something,
yeah,
which has like a great soundtrack, like if it was a musical, it takes away the epicness, the seriousness of the, the subject matter, So that's
yeah, it's difficult.
This is like one that you need to sort of think about,
What movie would you recreate as a musical?
Yeah, there wasn't a musical initially.
There wasn't a musical initially.
Finding Nemo.
Oh, I was going to say that. Literally was just about to
Mate,
say
it's
that.
the first one that came to my head. I'm like, I'm getting it out now. So
literally, you turn the words round. No, well done. Yeah, no, I just think
that's a good shout. I think animated films is a good shout because, like,
I was just thinking, I don't want to affect like one of my favourite movies that's very serious. So,
Ice Age or something would be quite cool.
Yeah, like you've seen like what Lion King has been such a huge hit as a musical, so like Toy Story could be one too, That would be a decent one.
Agreed.
Oh, in the comments, Tush says Forrest Gump. That would be pretty sick as a musical, actually.
Oh, Corey said Little Mermaid. Oh yes, that would be amazing. I'd be all over that.
I love Jaws as a pick.
Jaws. I'll go with Alien. I'd love that. Imagine the alien having a little sing song. That would be good. What about you, Kit?
I'd go with Jackass.
Is that a movie?
Oh, you don't know what Jackass is? Oh.
No, I know what it is. I just didn't know they'd done a movie.
Yeah, they've done a movie.
Some of the answers.
Okay.
Some of these comment answers, honestly.
Oh, dear.
I think they've gone from
getting worse. They're getting
worse. they're getting more in my territory.
They were trying to think seriously, and now they're like.
There's a bit of one-upmanship going on in the comments here, where they're trying to outdo each other for being like bad. I think.
Fair enough. I think at that point, then we'll hand over to you, Jay, to wrap up the show.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us. Unfortunately, you didn't hit the right target, so you don't get mine and Kurt's opinions on Messi to the Premier League. You only have yourself to blame. Thankful for you guys not hitting 69 likes.
Still reading these comments.
But if you have enjoyed the video, please do consider liking the video, also subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell so you are informed when we go live. And also follow us on Twitter, where we will announce when we're going live as well, and also on Instagram. All the links are in the description down below, as well as our channels. So if you want FPL content, it's all in the description for you. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you next time. See you later.
Goodbye.
Dale,